talked to you 3 Thursdays ago at 5 o'clock and everything was fine. What the heck happened?
Everything is fine again.
There you go. So, you are the definition of rainbows only follow storms. You cannot have a rainbow without a storm first. I mean, when you're doing good work, the universe sort of just folds in behind you. And I believe that you're trying to do really good work. And all of our conversations have confirmed over and over to me that you know what you know, and what you don't know, you're curious about. And on all the other issues, you actually care enough to go to somebody who may know. And this interesting interaction with you and me, and all of you are getting, I guess, hearing this for the first time. I believe this is about the first time you've done a public appearance in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
So we're honored to have you here in Atlanta. And believe me, Sam thinks about everything. So I'm honored that we're honored to have you here, because he's pitching for the underserved as an asset. So Sam and I have had many conversations, and we had a meeting in San Francisco where he showed me a preview of what would become ChatGPT, and we had a conversation about Silicon Valley leaders, and I told him that I thought most of them were geniuses with a blind spot called people, and which didn't take away from their genius, by the way. And I encouraged him to, as he sort of introduced this technology, which, by the way, at that moment, I didn't really understand everything about it. I really didn't. I sort of knew, but I didn't. And I encouraged you to do a community tour as you went on your other tour. And I got a call back. I don't think Sam's going to be able to do the community tour or do it later. I said, I think that's a mistake. And I get this call from you at the Milken conference, at Michael Milken's conference. It was close to midnight my time. I think we were on the same time zone. And you said, I have to be at the White House in a couple days. I don't want to go to the White House if I can't then come to your house. I want to come to Atlanta and speak to the underserved, to leaders from community, to understand what their concerns are, to give them the respect that they deserve. Can we do that? Yes. Now, the difficult we do immediately, the impossible takes just a little longer. I had no idea how I was going to pull together a meeting. I mean, you went to the White House. They can do whatever they want in 28 seconds. He's like, can you do a meeting in Atlanta in 2 days? Yes. Hang up the phone, turn to Shater and go, I have no idea how I'm going to pull this off.
So it was great.
It was great.
Really
I'm
did
glad you liked
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
We were sweating. So I called the president of Clark Atlanta, Dr. French, and and we held a meeting at Clark Atlanta, got some leaders together, and Martin Luther King III and all these people, Ambassador Young were there, Sanjay Gupta, who I believe is here, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who's here somewhere. And we had a closed-door meeting with you in the community, Dr. Helene Gale, who's here, President Spelman, all these heroes and sheroes. And I will tell you, it was only then that it absolutely clicked. That was the most inspiring and the most terrifying meeting I've ever had in my entire life. Completely terrifying, because it was obvious that everything was going to change. Like that. And we went from the horse and buggy to the automobile between 1850 and about 1910. We had about 60 years to get used to the idea. But there still was challenges and problems and social conflict. We're going to go to AI, in my opinion, at least the first version of it, in between 2 and 6 years, where a lot of what we know to be normal will become a new norm. And I've decided to be hopeful about it. Because one, it's coming whether you like it or not. And I believe when you're being run out of town, get in front of the crowd and make like a parade. The second thing is, it was no mistake. Ambassador Young is here some way. He'd say, coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. That Sam called me, and we have this connection, and you came from the White House to Atlanta, and we start talking about how to make this available to, accessible to, empowering to underserved communities cannot be an accident. And I don't think there's been any other leader in the history of tech, and I would consider you the new Steve Jobs, actually. And you're supposed to look weird like that. If you didn't, you're not the humble guy I know you to be, but I do believe that. I believe you're having that kind of impact. And I want you to carry it lightly, as I know you will. By the way, we're wearing the same kind of suit.
Yeah.
But as we make this transition, I've decided that I wanted to be on the side of the angels, to find a way to make this a force for good and to bring people along in this process. Is that also your dream?
Yeah, and I really think it will be. I feel so much better about how the AI future is going to unfold now than I did even a year ago, and certainly 5 years ago. But watching what the world is doing with ChatGPT, the way people are using these new tools to architect the future, bring new value to each other, sort of be able to do more, be happier, learn more, get better advice. I wasn't quite sure how all this was going to go, to be honest. But seeing how people are using it to level up themselves, their communities, the companies they can create, the ideas they have, it seems pretty great. Obviously, there will be difficult challenges we'll have to navigate, but I really do believe that if you put great tools in people's hands, they will build amazing things for all of us. And the speed with which that's happening, since we've released ChatGPT and other people have released great products too, that's been pretty exciting.
And as we look at the promise of it, I mean, the possibility of curing diseases in the next 20 years. And let's talk a little bit about that. The possibility of having a doctor in the middle of a rural area in Africa who has the same technological advantages as Emory University's, entire unit might have. That's part of the promise, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, think about what it means if everybody on Earth can get better healthcare than the best healthcare anyone can get today. If everybody on Earth can get...
Yes.
If every kid can get a better education than the sort of like richest, most privileged kid today. Like, we can't even imagine what that's going to be like.
Curing cancer, hopefully.
I mean, I hope that every kid born today will be smarter and more well-educated than any of us in this room. I think that, And I think you can see the glimpses of that now with the way students are learning with ChatGPT, primitive and, larval though it is. So, you can pick anything else: financial inclusion, healthcare, education, entertainment even, the ability for everybody to be able to create computer programs. This is going to change a lot of things, and what it means to put this in everybody's pocket, if everybody gets this like super helpful assistant that can do anything they need, it's a different world for sure, but I think a much better one in many, many ways.
So some of the advantages are obvious. some of them we have no, I think some of these things are just going to blow our minds.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny how quickly we can, and I think this is actually great. I think this is a wonderful thing about humanity and humans, how quickly we can go from having our minds blown to saying like, yeah, of course. Like, what do you mean my phone didn't used to be smart?
Right.
I remember seeing a photo, like a video once of this was like right after iPhones came out, of a baby that parents put a magazine in front of her, and she was going like this because the idea that she couldn't like pinch to zoom on a device was just like, it didn't make sense. And to everybody else at the time, they were like, how did this happen so fast? And now in a few years, like kids who are just growing up, they will never have known a time where computers couldn't understand, where AI was not a thing. And we're all just gonna get used to this right away, and it'll blow our minds for a little bit of time. ChatGPT blew the world's mind for 2 weeks, and then everybody moved on. And I think that's great. I think that actually says something really good about our resilience and adaptability.
I don't know, I saw on CNBC last week that that ChatGPT was actually the #1 most trending or whatever app still.
Yeah, but people expect it. Now if it doesn't ChatGPT went down maybe like a month ago for a while, like hours. And people were just saying like, I can't believe it. Like, this is so unacceptable. Like, how can this company do this? And it's like, it's only like 10 months ago. You had never heard of this thing.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
And you didn't think AI was going to happen. So, but I think it's great.
Yeah, and it's like having this genius assistant in your pocket.
It's not a genius yet, but it will be. I mean, in a few more years, it will be.
So now let's flip to the problems, the risk, which are everywhere. But from my situation, my concern, let's just deal with poor and struggling minority communities, people black and white with a high school education. If you're in a retail job, done. You're in at least done for now. You're in a fast food. I don't know. You guys go to a fast food restaurant. They've been sneaking this up on you. Last few years, you go there and there's now a little tablet there, and you put your order in, and you used to go to a grocery store. It was all clerks. Now half of the lines are self-checkout. This is moving you through robotics, through some sense of automation. And I'm concerned that if we don't be intentional about educating and retraining a whole generation of everybody, that we won't give people a sense of purpose and belonging and make them visible for the new economy. And one thing I like about you is you have IQ and EQ, and you seem to give a damn. So what do we do? This is a problem for me. This is just one of the obvious threats. Tens of millions of jobs that may become obsolete in an instant.
So that may happen, and I think it's worth being very honest about. I think, though, it'll happen differently than we think. I think, I was very afraid for a while that the way this was going to work was like AI just started doing every job, and it went from the grocery store checkout clerks to sort of like doctors to just everything was went. But what seems to be happening, and what I think will happen more than I originally thought, is this will be a tool that people, in many cases, it will totally change some jobs, but in many cases, this is something that will just change the way people do their jobs in the same way that mobile phones did, the internet before that, computers before that. We adapt and we find new, better ways to work. And that's sort of like, that is the rollout of progress. Like, that's been going on for a super long time with one technology revolution after another. Now, you're never supposed to say this time is different, but it does feel to me that this time is different.
Yeah.
And it's a little scary, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think human ingenuity, creativity, desire to be useful to each other, to like play silly status games, whatever you want to call it, that is so strong. We are so good. We are so creative. We will find new things to do. Most of our jobs today just weren't jobs that existed 500 years ago in any way. And,
or even 50 years ago.
Or even 50 years ago, certainly. And the future is going to be like that too. Our kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, they're going to do different things. And again, I think that's okay. We've just got to figure out how we're going to manage through this rapid change. I think that the speed of this, as you said earlier, will be different than any previous technological revolution. And I think, more than any other technology I can point to a historical example for, this technology either has the ability to do the most ever to concentrate wealth and power, which would be really bad, or the most to broadly distribute and enable people to do it. And I think if you look at the trajectory AI is on right now, it's much more to that latter camp, and it's going to be incredible. It's going to lift the world up. It really is something that, like, everyone's just got a new tool in their pocket, and they're doing these amazing things with it. And that is how I think you get real, significant, lasting change. But you can imagine all these worlds with AI where it wouldn't be like that, and it would be this sort of like centralizing force that one company or some small group of companies get to use.
Let's deal for a moment, Sam, with crazy thoughts, like stuff that keeps you up at night. Like some mad scientist some dang on where, or some dictator in some dang on place who decides, I don't know, people aren't useful. I mean, you have a bone, you have an ethical bone, you care about people, and that's why I'm leaning in with you. What concerns you?
You know, the greatest sci-fi stories that I ever read certainly were, or watched or whatever. The really compelling ones, the ones that really, were the mind virus that got in my brain, were the AIs going rogue. You know, like that sticks.
Yeah.
There's something about that really resonates with us. I don't know, like how many when OpenAI first started, every article about us used the same Terminator photo for a long time. Because that was the only way to think about what AI was. If you asked people then about AI, they would say, oh yeah, it's gonna drive my car someday. Or oh yeah, that's the robots are gonna fight us all, and I've seen that movie. And that was really the way people thought about AI. And that was on my mind and a lot of our minds. And it's it is very scary to think about this thing that is gonna improve at an exponential rate. And we didn't, at the time, know exactly how this was gonna go. We didn't come up with the idea for what we call language models now, like the thing that underlies ChatGPT, until maybe 2018 was the first version. We didn't really believe in it until longer than that. Originally, we were kind of doing what other people in the field were doing and what we thought you were supposed to work on. So we had a project with robots, obviously a little scary, and we were working on agents that could play video games with the thinking that as they got smarter and smarter, they could work in more complex environments. And also, now we look back at that and think that was a scary idea. We were sort of young and naive at the time, but all of those thoughts about the ways this can go wrong you don't need much imagination, because we've grown up with that in the media, and it is such a compelling story. So when we started OpenAI, we worried about that a lot, and we still do. I mean, I think if the technology goes wrong, it could be quite scary, which is why we work so hard on safety. But we also believe that you cannot build this safely in a vacuum. If you just build this in a lab, and if we don't get contact with reality, the system will have all of these problems and bugs. There'll be biases in there that we don't understand, that'll work in these ways we didn't intend, and won't serve what people want. So we believe that you gotta deploy. You gotta you make it as good as you think you can, and then you gotta put it in front of people and say, does this help you? Is this good? Do you like it? Tell us what's broken. Tell us where it's not meeting your needs. Tell us where it's really screwing up badly. And that tight feedback loop, I think, is the only way I know how to develop, let technology and society co-evolve together, and really listen to what people actually want. One thing we say a lot is that the people that are going to be most affected by technology deserve the biggest voice in what it's going to do. And if you don't put it out in the world, if you don't let people use it, if you don't show it to people and say, hey, give us feedback, you just can't do that. So one of our big worries was that the technology would be developed in secret, in a lab, and then all of a sudden be this super powerful thing. And that was scary too. Of course, all the robot worries. Now, I guess the two things on the short to medium horizon, one, there's a lot of talk about this, but people using these systems to create bioweapons, which hopefully people just won't do, but I do think the systems will be capable of. And another is, these will be incredible at hacking into computer systems. And what it's gonna take us as a society to say, let's enjoy all the benefits, let's let people develop these in all kinds of ways, but let's have some guardrails, like we do for any other powerful technology. That's a hard balance to get right. And then the big one is, I said I think we're on a good trajectory, and I still think we are, but whether this is gonna be an inclusive or an exclusive technology is still somewhat in the balance.
And what I can't figure out about you, I know you're smart. I can't figure out why you're so decent. I mean, and what I mean by that is you could be arrogant and obnoxious and exclusive and be the people in the room and don't talk to anybody else. And it's not like every one of our conversations has been convenient. And I've actually told you some things that were different from what you were thinking. And yet you stuck with it. You stayed engaged. You were curious. I think you cared. What is it? Just a quick one on where's this come from? I think you said your Midwest upbringing.
More than that, I mean, I love growing up. Midwest is incredible. I'm very grateful to have grown up in the Midwest. That is,
A small town.
But I think we feel the weight of what we're doing. And I have watched it change people who come in to work on AI in all sorts of ways. And you're like, yeah, you know, it's another tech job. Started for all of us as another job to some degree or other. But you feel the responsibility of it. We feel like we're like living through moving history. And I think that like everybody wants to get that right.
So you want to talk to everybody?
To the degree that we have done things well, and we certainly have not done everything well, but we really try to listen to as broad of a base of stakeholders as we can. And again, we don't make everybody happy all the time. We don't always make the right product or the right research or the right policy decisions. But one thing that we try to do differently than what other AI companies have done or other tech companies have done is we really try to get out in the world and listen. And that permeates the whole company. And I think it's like a lot of how we ended up with ChatGPT the way it is.
So, a couple closing questions. Have you guys enjoyed this? And if you notice, Sam's got no notes, I've got no notes. I mean, he's transparent. Like what you see is what you get, which makes me want to trust him even more. And all of our conversations are just like this. He's just talking. He may not say what you want, but what he's saying, you can bank on. And I'm also, well, I have a follow-up comment, but I have a question. Why did you call me late that night? You didn't have to. Why did you call me? And what did that meeting at Clark Atlanta mean to you?
Yeah. Well, we had wanted to do something for a while, but we even before we launched ChatGPT, we had talked about doing something. I showed it to John, as he mentioned, when he came to the office. And then almost exactly a year ago, a year and 10 days, I guess, we launched ChatGPT to the world. And we thought it was not going to be a big deal. We thought it'd be a medium deal. You know, we're like, oh, people are going to like this. They think it's cool.
A medium deal.
But we then like jumped into this tornado that has not stopped. And everybody's life at the company, like the way I say it is we had to go through what most companies get to do over 5 or 10 years, most tech companies, in a 6-month period. And that was really hard. I mean, obviously it led to all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah. But that was like a very fun, very blessed to have been through it, but very painful and difficult process. And so all these things I wanted to do were just like, there were not enough hours in the day or days in the year, whatever you want to call it. So you had said, well, I don't need a lot of notice. Sometime when you can be on the East Coast and have like a free half day or whatever, come do this.
Yeah, I've gotten a little bit more notice, by the way, but go ahead.
And then you had said one other thing, which is I was about to go do this tour around the world. And you were like, do whatever you want, I'll be good with you, but like, I really think you should spend more time in America before you go around the rest of the world. That really hit me. So I wanted to arrange a few stops around America before doing this. I think it was like a 22-country world tour. You were my first call, did a couple others after. And those were super meaningful. I actually, just before this, I met today with 4 people that I met at that conference with you earlier. It was lovely. Nice. But, you know, we tried to, as always, we just tried to listen, get the feedback, and figure out how to bake it into future versions. I think over the next year, I think these systems are going to start to get significantly more capable, which will be great in a lot of ways, but also makes the stakes higher. And so the time that we've gotten to sort of get the feedback from people, from our leaders, from institutions, from communities about how to develop this, that's been super important.
I've been humored by reading about you in the newspaper and everywhere you go. People think they know you. I'm like, that's not Sam. No, that's not Sam. That's really not Sam. And he was making stuff up.
That's strange.
Just making stuff up. And I tried to cut you. We talked, and then all hell broke loose the next day. And it was me, Brian Betts, and Kevin Boucher on the phone with you. And it was a very straight conversation. And we had some bold dreams together. And I left that phone conversation very enthused. And then when all hell broke loose, I did what I do with my friends. I cut them a break and cut them some space. I sent you a couple texts, whatever. And I just waited for the cancel. It never came. Like, nothing changed. Everything that we agreed to, you're like, yep, yep, let me get through with this. I got like 9,000 text messages. But why? I mean, what is it, again, is it just simply that you made a commitment?
Well, I like doing stuff. I mean, yeah, I do believe in keeping commitments, of course, but also I love doing stuff. Like, it's great to see you, it's great to be here. I really wanted to do this. I wish I were a little less tired and more engaged, and I'm sorry it's been a long few weeks, but...
I think you've been a little bit more busy.
A little worn down, but no, I'm No, I'm delighted to be here. It's definitely weird, like, being in the news and reading these things that just don't seem like me at all, but I do, in the spirit of having, like, empathy for your enemies even, I think, like, people have a lot of anxiety about AI. Yeah. And I get that, and I feel that too, and they need a person to project it onto, and I'm just gonna, like, unfortunately for a little while, be that person, and that's all right.
It's very noble. Look, we're sort of almost out of time here, and this has been a very special conversation. I've been intentionally messing with you here because I wanted people to see what I see. I wanted to pull at you and poke at you until, there you go, see a smile? Yeah. I wanted people to see him as a human being. He has feelings, he has emotions, stop picking on him. He's one person, he's trying the very best he can. And I tell people who want to criticize him, I tell them the same thing about people who want to criticize me. I like what I'm doing much better than what you're not doing. He's trying, he's listening, he's open. He came to the hood, D-A-H-O-O-D, the hood, and he was like comfortable. He was cool on the HBCU campus. I was trying to give him some, he's like, I'm good, I've been here before. So I've got a couple of things to say. Number one, OpenAI has agreed months ago to make the first ever grant to a nonprofit to embed artificial intelligence into a community-based organization. It's a $500,000 grant to Operation Hope.
Thank you for having us.
It's not about the money, it's about taking this and making it a force for good. We're going to try to use it to make our coaching and counseling tighter, better, more valuable to our people. But that's not the most important thing. As a result of coming to Atlanta and listening and whatever, we wanted to back them up. So Dr. Bernice King, led by Ambassador Andrew Young, I don't know where, he's here somewhere, Ambassador Andrew Young, Bernice King, Dr. Haleen Gale, president of Spelman, Dr. George French, president of Clark Atlanta University, Strive Masiyiwa, who is considered the Bill Gates of Africa, who I met with Ambassador Young. I'm hoping I'm not missing somebody's name or doing this off the top of my head, and there'll be other names to follow, but they're joining me as Sam and I are co-chairing the new AI Ethics Council.
I'm excited.
So he's gone to the government, he and other leaders, and asked the government to help with the right sort of legal framework. That's not our business. We will stay out of that, let the government do what the government does. But we would like to help you can't just sit around and throw rocks. You can't just complain. This is happening, whether you like it or not. It's coming. But what we can do is try to be a force for good. And so we're going to try to provide some ethical, some moral, some framework guidelines, and hopefully some good counsel, along with some tech leaders that you're going to provide, to try to be, well, a case for optimism. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
cool brother, man.
Oh, man.
I love.
Let's not waste time talking about me. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about this great meeting. How many of you have enjoyed this meeting? Eye-opening, awakening.
When Shacher's not available to talk to me, I can't. When I want to hear a voice that just tickles me, I just call you, and I'm like, oh, that voice. It's just. He said, hello.
Are you really going to do this?
I think you are one of the most extraordinary human beings, and I know you as a person. I know you as a friend. I'm talking about the transparency of you in your public life, in your personal life, your spiritual life, your I'm tired life, you need to rest life, you're there. I'm telling you, you're one of the 10 most extraordinary human beings I've ever met in my life. You are literally walking your talk. You are truly special, and you're so humble. And I just wanted the world to know what I know. We're blessed to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. In response to that, I would rather deflect the light from me to the fierceness of this moment we're in right now.
Yeah.
And I congratulate you on putting together and coordinating a meeting that wakes us up, to a paradigm shift that is unlike anything that I have ever seen in my lifetime, as it relates to the influence of technology, the integration of technology, and what it means. And a lot of this was born out of the conversation that you and I had.
You inspired me when we were together.
Yeah.
You told me to do this.
Yeah, congratulations.
You wanted me to have the whole meeting about AI, actually.
Yeah, because it is the underbelly to what is going on with real estate, with job placement, with economic empowerment. It is not a war against colors and kinds. Our jobs are being taken over by machines. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to develop a new hate group. Because the truth of the matter is the projection for black wealth in particular by 2050 is projected to be at zero. COVID is probably going to speed that up in my view, that probably about 2030, we're going to see the absence of middle class because technology is going to speed up a lot of things that we need: healthcare, operations, detecting disease, developing systems and patterns for transportation, for growth, for the possibilities are absolutely endless. The great side is, as Sam was talking about, our children are going to grow up with something that is natural to them that is not natural to us. That's great. But for those that are 40 and above or 30 and above, how do we adapt and survive in the middle of a transforming society that's being transformed in a way that we have never seen it transform before? Okay, I lived through the transformation from the industrial age to the information age. I've watched all the Midwest shut down, the plants close, people lose their jobs and have to rediscover themselves. Maybe their children will, as Sam talked about, come up being educated for the times of the future, but I'm talking about the parents. What are we going to do in the meantime? Yeah. And so that's a real issue. We've seen this before. We've seen it from the agricultural age to the industrial age. Historically, we've seen it periodically, as he talked about. The reason I think that entrepreneurship is important is in part because those people who are going to find themselves without jobs, incidentally, when you start talking about tech corporations, it's not just the obvious tech corporations like the one that just walked off the stage. Every corporation, whether you're talking about Amazon, whether you're talking about McDonald's, whether you're talking about whatever, they are all tech companies.
Yeah.
If you go in their warehouses, I used to run a forklift.
Yeah.
There aren't any forklifts in warehouses anymore. It's just there aren't any people. There's just machines.
Yeah.
Delivering your packages, delivering your mails, drones,
yeah.
and all of that has right before our eyes while
self-driving cars.
Self-driving cars while we are asleep at the wheel. And thank you for blowing a trumpet, because we need trumpets to blow everywhere where we begin to think seriously about how do we take innovation and turn it in a way that while our children will grow up organically in a world and they will be able to code, and hopefully not just consume technology, but create technology. See, hopefully, if we are lucky this time, we won't be the consumers only. Historically, we consume, we don't create. We
That's right.
have to change that if we're going to be effective in the society to come. In the meantime, for those of us who are older, and I don't mean as old as me, but even much younger than me, the question arises, as these jobs begin to dissipate, how will we eat in the midst of inflation? And the question has to come back as affirmative action is dismissed, as ESG is being sued around the country for environmental, social impact and governance in corporations are being attacked for trying to bring about equity in the workspace. Nobody's job is safe. So we need to think, if you're not engineering, if you're not creating, and you're just consuming, you're in real trouble, and there's no guarantee that your education, you may die with your student loan. If you don't learn to think differently and create meaningful, sustainable forces of income, and that's why entrepreneurship is at the substratum of what we're doing at Good Soil. I'm not talking about what I'm doing at the Potter's House. I'm talking about what I'm doing through TD Jakes Enterprises at Good Soil and the aggregation of entrepreneurs, underserved communities coming together to strengthen each other, to get access to capital, to get access to information, to get access to association, to get access to the kinds of relationships that will stop the percentage, the largest percentage of African American owned businesses in this country, about 90+ % have less than 2 employees.
That's right.
Because we don't think in terms of scaling up our business. We just think in terms of paying the rent and paying the bills.
Right.
As that wouldn't be so bad if you didn't take it and add to the galing winds of this transition the entrance of technology and AI and the dismissing of more and more jobs who we could employ, because the largest part of Americans work for small businesses, not major corporations.
That's right.
So when you start thinking about that, the future depends on us radically scaling up entrepreneurship.
That's right.
Our focus with Good Soil and the development of it is more than just legacy and just another thing TD Jakes decided to do. I am trying to stop the tidal wave of poverty that is headed for our cities if we don't move immediately. And that is a multi-pronged process. It's entrepreneurship, it's access to housing, it's access to someplace to sleep, to stay, to garner information, to develop yourself, to improve yourself. It's part of our responsibility as human beings one to another. And it is certainly more prevalent amongst Black people, but not Black people alone. When this thing shifts like it's going to shift, it's going to affect all people. And yes, there will be people who organically adapt and find jobs in those positions. We have to reorganize the way we educate people. We have to reorganize the way we think about things. But for entrepreneurs, we have to begin to think not only about how we can hire people, but how we can take technology to increase our profit margins so that we can scale our businesses, so that we can access information. Sometimes we're taking courses and classes through not just getting degrees and letters, but taking courses and classes that keep us on the cutting edge. It's not enough to be smart if you're not relevant.
Woo!
So if you can do the swim like Chubby Checkers, it doesn't matter because they're not doing that anymore. A lot of us are good at what used to work.
Woo! Say that again.
We are good and proficient at what used to work, and 20 years ago or 10 years ago, we were relevant. But marketing is not done the way it was done even 10 years ago.
That's right.
The whole music industry has changed up under our feet, and we don't even notice it. You know, I grew up with
Television and movie production is about to change.
It's about to change.
Yeah.
It has changed completely.
Yeah.
With the way we consume content, the way we consume information, we're not noticing that the world is shifting up under our feet, and I think that we are so busy that we are busy for the sake of being busy, but we're not doing business. Busyness and business are two different things.
Talk to me.
And we have to We have
Come
to
on, preach.
inject into the culture of how we think a different way of how we think, how we parent, what we talk about around the table, what we think money is for.
Yes.
You know, if you're a poor person, you think if I get some money, I'm going to pay these bills. If you're a middle class person, you think if I get some money, I'm going to get a good credit score and buy something I can't afford and pay it off over time.
That's right.
But if you're rich, you think if I get some money, I'm going to take my money and make it make money.
Talk to me.
Are you hearing
Build
what I'm
wealth in
saying?
your sleep.
You're building wealth in your sleep. So mentality has a lot to do with the development of our society. As a man thinketh in his heart,
Yes.
so is he. And I'm not sure that we are thinking right. And I applaud you, sir, for having the courage to take on the challenge of bringing up the kinds of discussions that wake us up out of our sleep.
Bishop, I think we are, I've said this before, we're living in a moment in history. But history does not feel historic when you're sitting in it. Mm-hmm. It just feels like another day.
Right.
Right across the hall, about 30 yards, is where Ambassador Andrew Young, then Reverend Andrew Young, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. met with Dorothy Dorothy Cotton and all these civil rights leaders, Coretta Scott King, who doesn't get enough credit for all that she did. And they dreamed up the Poor People's Campaign. Mm-hmm. And that was about all people. Mm-hmm. As you said, I've got white people, members of my church. There are more poor white people than poor anybody else. They're gonna be dislocated like everybody else.
Everybody.
And the new color's green. Mm-hmm. It's not black or white, or red or blue. That's a game. The color's green. It's economics. And Dr. King knew that. He said, I'm here to redeem the soul of America from the triple evils of war, racism, and poverty. And he said, I want all poor people to come with me. And as he pivoted this movement, somebody found him to be a threat. Because he was talking about redistribution. As a liberal pastor, he thought that it was only right to redistribute wealth. Well, that became a threat to those who had it. And he didn't make it to his first march. But they met right across this hall, last meeting, 1967. So we thought it was necessary for us to come across this hall into the expanded ballroom and meet about civil rights, not just civil rights, about where we're going, not just where we came from, about writing checks, not just cashing them.
Preach.
About the third Reconstruction, not just the second Reconstruction, about where we are right now, an opportunity for all. But we got to get our minds right, as you said. We got to knock off all this, man. There's no time. There's no time for games. Everybody in here, you need to not leave. You need to run out of here and tell every kid you got, every nephew, every son, every daughter, every young person, you need to go get a computer course and a financial literacy course yesterday.
You're absolutely right.
It's like food.
You're absolutely right. The one thing I would say just a tiny bit differently is it's not black, it's not white, it's not brown. The new color is green. Right now it is. But the truth of the matter is economics is moving away from paper money.
Yep.
You know, yeah, and we have to begin to think even beyond. We have a color-coded society, and we always talk about things in terms of color rather than class status and impact.
Yes.
But the truth of the matter is I can take my phone and send you money right now, and it wasn't green at all.
That's right.
Okay, and you got it in your app, and I got Zelle, and we got Cash App, and we got all kinds of ways, Bitcoin, we got money is moving as we speak. We're wiring money. Yeah, Good Soil has an app.
Right.
We created the Good Soil app so that we could aggregate without being limited by distance or zip codes in terms of being to aggregate like-minded people who were entrepreneurs who had the courage to go higher. It takes courage to go higher. It takes courage to admit what you don't know. It takes courage to change the old ways that your fathers taught you. It takes courage to implement new ideologies that embrace the innovation of the fierce urgency of now. And if we don't develop that courage, and that does not mean courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the ability to override the fear and feel the fear and do it anyway. and to launch out where others have not gone, not so that we can ride around in Porsches, but so that we can send our children to the kinds of schools that prepare them for the future and train them for the opportunities. And we're not vying for the handouts, because there are not enough handouts as there are hands that need to go up.
That's right. Yeah. We don't need Porsches, we need courses.
We need courses. We need courses. So in our app, we are walking entrepreneurs step by step into how to impact, grow, and scale their businesses to increase impact. And by the way, in June, shameless plug, we're going to be meeting in Dallas. You can find it up under Good Soil Movement. We're going to be meeting in June just to talk to entrepreneurs, because not that, first of all, Black women are leaving corporate America like it was on fire. Okay.
Number one group of starting businesses, Black women.
Black women are starting business more readily than other people group. Access to capital is one of their biggest problems. And the Good Soil, the whole point of Good Soil is to connect talent with opportunity, with access for future development. And we're trying to bridge that gap skillfully and artfully in such a way. No, we're not going to be able to get old people to go back and use ChatGPT necessarily, but we might get some of them. But the reality is, if we don't start hiring ourselves, I believe that we are the people we have been waiting on.
Woo!
And so what we're going to have to do is each one teach one. And so the app is a place not only for networking and aggregating, and not only for advertising, but also for access to information. Maybe you don't need to hire somebody immediately, or the person you hire can increase efficiency with AI and technology. I know that's something you're getting ready to take up. If you can do it with technology, you don't have to pay health insurance, you don't have to pay life insurance, you don't have to pay FICA taxes, you don't have to pay for space. The reason that the big companies are moving into technology is because they don't get sick, they don't take off, they don't take vacation, they're not on PTO, they don't take 2-hour lunch breaks, they're not over in the corner playing with porn. They're doing whatever. Yeah, I shocked you, didn't I? Yeah, yeah.
And there's none of this.
Yeah. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So one of our problems is we don't have great accounting system, which you can't talk to banks without accounting.
That's right.
Technology is going to bring within our reach a greater ability to develop the kinds of accounting systems so that we are eligible for the opportunities that precede us. What we are doing through Good Soil is to create a climate of like-minded people. One of the hardest things to do, I can't do it in church, because some people in church have that mindset, some people don't. Some people are just waiting for the bus to take them to heaven. Some people are church is an amalgamation of all kinds of people. But when you get everybody in one place with one accord who want the same thing, we strengthen each other not only through who's on the stage, but in a room like this, for every need in this room, there's an answer in this room sitting at the table right across from you.
Talk to me.
You understand? And if you are privileged enough to be in an environment of people who are like-minded, you don't have to waste time arguing about where we're going. We can focus on how we're going to get there.
That's right.
And so you can do things that you couldn't do before. And people with low budgets can do graphic arts designs through technology. You can communicate with your customers better. You can draft a letter that keeps connection with them, because everything about business is predicated on relationship.
That's right.
And if you don't understand relationship, then you have lost resources. And we have raised a generation of people who are in the prime of their life right now, who were raised playing with machines and not people. They don't understand relationships.
That's right.
And the power that relationships
That's right.
bring.
That's
I was talking to somebody behind stage. The power that you use to bring this last session, Sam Altman here, Everybody can't bring Sam Altman on their stage. Everybody can't do that. That's relationship. And so we become the beneficiaries of your relationships. You are no stronger than the people you relate to, and you have no more clients than how you relate to them. And technology enables you to maintain that relationship at a modicum of the price that it used to cost. A modicum of the price to produce a film and put it on Netflix versus put it on the big screen. Everything's going down. To be able to stream music as opposed to an 8-track or a record player or a cassette player or MP3 or whatever. Everything's moving so fast, and we're getting it and we're consuming it. We're loving it. We're enjoying it. We're just not making it. And if you're not on the making end, you're not on the profit end.
Come on.
There is no way you can profit consuming.
That's it.
The only way to profit is to produce.
That's right.
Now I'm going to go Bishop Jakes on you. Now I'm going to go Bishop Jakes. The very first thing God commanded man to do was to be fruitful. Be fruitful. He didn't command him to eat. He commanded him to be fruitful. Reason being, you can't be fruitful if you're not seedful. In this room, the reason we call it good soil, because in this room there are seeds of greatness in every person in this room. If they have the courage to cultivate that seed, if they have the ability to fertilize it with the opportunity of being in an influential atmosphere where you can get away from the people who are trying to crab barrel you back down, then it becomes possible for you to fly with the eagles rather than to swim with the ducks.
That's it.
And so you have to decide right now, it takes courage to fly with eagles. It takes courage to get into the wind. And yes, there's storms up there and there's fluctuations and the velocity of the wind is overwhelming sometimes, but the eagle uses the storm to its advantage. Some of our current richest families got rich during the Depression. How are we going to react to this transition? Are we going to use it to be wind beneath our wings? Or are we going to just yell at it and complain about it and cry about it and roll over and give up about it? How are we going to talk around the dinner table? I know dinner table's out of style, but
we need to bring it back.
We need to bring it back, because if you're not talking to your children about resources, about finances, if you're not talking to them about future, if you're not talking to them about ownership and stewardship, if you stop giving them money and make them earn money and do like my mother did. My mother gave me a savings account for Christmas when I was 7.
That's right.
A passbook savings account took me downtown. Yes, sir. Right. And I had my little account, and she taught me to value not spending but saving.
That's right.
You understand?
And then go to work.
Yeah, exactly. And took me to work. My father demanded that I work. And you take your hands out your pocket and have a good work ethic. Because if you're going to be a great entrepreneur, let me announce to you, you do not become an entrepreneur because you don't want to work for anybody. The truth of the matter is, if you're an entrepreneur, you're working so you can make the payroll. You're working so you can keep the building. You're working so that you can satisfy the client. You're just working for somebody else in a different way. And you are working past 5 o'clock.
You're working 18 hours a day to keep from getting a job.
Yes, sir.
An entrepreneur works 18 hours a day to keep from getting the job.
You can't even start thinking about work-life balance for the first 10 years.
That's right.
You're going to balance on the back end. If you work on the front end, you can rest on the back end. If you don't work on the front end, there'll be no rest on the back end. And there's nothing worse than getting old and being broke.
Woo!
There is no guarantee that the children you had will take care of you. There is no guarantee. You might be pleasantly surprised, but there is no guarantee that they will be able to take care of you. There is no guarantee that they can have enough PTO to take care of you. There is no guarantee that they will be employed to take care of you.
That's right, that part.
So this is a clarion call for us to start thinking, because everything that we're seeing, those robots and all that didn't start last year.
That's right.
That's been creeping up behind us while we were dropping it like it's hot, and while we were line dancing at weddings, and while we were having a good time, and cooking pork chops and doing what we do, and shrimp and grits and all that. While we were making shrimp and grits, they were making robots.
Come on.
Okay? And I love shrimp and grits. I'm not throwing off against anybody. Y'all know I cook. This is what I'm saying. This moment, this important way of reaching people, communicating with people through technology opens up doors of access that levels the playing floor. When I got on television as a minister, we had, still do, have to pay for airtime. Okay, and it was very expensive to pay for airtime. We got the beatings for raising the money, but we didn't get the money that we raised. What people didn't know, you had to pay for the airtime, you had to pay for the cameraman, you had to pay for the editing, you had to pay for everything. And the studios, whoever produced you, they charged us for the airtime, okay? Now you can stream from a storefront.
From your phone.
From your phone. Look at how the playing field is leveled by technology.
That's right.
It used to be you had to have a big church to have a big crowd. Now all you have to have is a big message.
Woo!
If you have a big message and a phone, you can get your message out without having to pay anybody for anything at any time in any way, because the technology, look at how technology is leveling the playing floor, that we might have a greater opportunity to reach masses of people, not just here in America. The conversations that we're having here in Atlanta, they were having at the G8 summit. Technology is not an American thing. It is a global takeover. Right. The countries are deciding which country is going to focus on what aspect of technology. So it's not just legislated by Congress and what they've got to say. It will be years before our laws catch up with our technology.
That's right.
We don't have laws that's regulating the World Wide Web. We're still, your voice print, your facial recognition, your content, all needs to be copywritten, needs to be controlled, because technology can take your face and put it anywhere it wants to put you and create a movie. Used to be you had to go to Hollywood or you had to go to a studio to create a movie. If you got a laptop, you got a movie.
That's right.
And I can put you in my movie. Mm-hmm. And if I got your voice, I can get your voice through AI. I got on AI and asked it to write out a sermon that sounded like T.D. Jakes.
That's it.
And it spun around a few minutes, and then it started, put your hands together and give the Lord a praise. I'm serious.
Oh, yeah.
I'm serious. So that means it already knows us.
Yeah, I went in there and said, give me a book outline on financial literacy like John Hope Bryant would write it.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. Outline, details, section 1, section 2, section 3. Unbelievable.
Absolutely. Whereas normally if you were going to do a book and if you were going to get a ghostwriter to write for you, you would pay $85,000. Now you got one in your phone.
For free.
For free. Look at how the playing field is changing. Are you thinking about how to take I was in the car coming over here talking about vision boards.
And by the way, we out of time. Are you guys okay? All right, good.
Okay, stop.
No. You preaching, brother. Go ahead.
No, we were talking about vision boards. Do you have a vision to grow? If you have a vision to grow, I'm not even talking about capital, because if I give capital to a person who has no vision, they'll spend it.
That's right.
If you have a vision to grow and you determine that you've got another interview, I'm reading off the prompter. If you have a vision, you got to go.
I do have to go.
You do have to go. So I'm going to stop there. It's been wonderful. Meet me in June at Good Soil in Dallas, Texas. Register today. I have a lot to say. I'm serious. I have a lot to say. I believe that God left me in the earth to talk to you about what your vision is for the future, and I've amassed a lot of experts to continue. We had house parties. The party's in Atlanta, and it's coming to Dallas.
So So, so what Bishop is telling you is a note just came up on the screen. I got to be on live TV on CNBC in 15 minutes, which means I'm going to be running. Please don't stop me. I'll be running. Is me and Michael Milken. So thank you very much. I didn't see it. You caught it. But let me just say this. First of all, wasn't this fabulous? This man here. Let me tell you something. All y'all folks walking up talking about, I don't want to go back to the office. That's the new affirmative action. When everybody else is staying home with their families or remote, you take yourself into the office and be seen by that boss. Impress that boss. Come, get right up close to that boss. Show them that you take the worst job that nobody wants to do and do it better than anybody has done it. Impress that person and take the job of the person not showing up. We got to reimagine everything.
Everything. Hey, you got to go. That's what you got to go. Listen. Listen.
TV. Look. Here, all these. I'm done. Books, TV shows, movies. He's doing real estate development in Atlanta, in Dallas. He's not talking about this stuff. He's not just PhD. He's PhD too. Download Good Soil. Support what he's doing, because he's a man that's built to help you lift your dreams into reality. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in saying thank you to Bishop T.D. Jakes.